Tonight, counting down to a return home to Jasper. Some relief after a desperate wait.
As excited as we all are to get back, it brings a lot of stress along with that.
And the anxiety of confronting what a crippling wildfire chewed up.
It is a new normal that they will have to adapt to.
It just shows that the Russian military isn't really as skilled as it should be.
Ukraine's surprise offensive forcing Russia to retreat. More evidence of deepening cracks on the front lines of Canadian healthcare.
Over time, this just corrodes people.
An Alberta patient becomes one of the first in the world to receive a state-of-the-art pacemaker.
2 weeks after the implant, I went on a hike.
And a hero's homecoming for Canadian Olympians. Savoring the successes of record-breaking achievements.
Definitely a childhood dream accomplished.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. Thousands of people driven out of Jasper 3 weeks ago by a raging wildfire now have a countdown to when they can finally return home. But they still don't know exactly what they are going back to starting Friday. Parts of the town are under a boil water advisory. Hundreds whose homes were completely destroyed have nowhere to live. And officials are still trying to determine where to put students when they go back to school in a few weeks. Still, with the return of the heartbeat of the community, its people, a sign the task of rebuilding can finally begin. CTV's Andrew Johnson starts us off.
They were forced to pack up fast and hit the highway, then watched their town burn. Today, 3 weeks later, a return home is finally in sight for the people of Jasper.
So many have lost so much. We wanted, as early as possible, consistent with safety, to give them every opportunity to fulfill that yearning to be back home.
Friday at 7 a.m., when the highway into the national park opens for the day, all Jasperites will be welcomed back, but their community has been crippled.
There will be an adjustment. Our residents will re-enter to what they will have to make as a new normal.
Town officials say the minimum requirements have been met for a safe return to Jasper, but what that looks like will depend on where people live and what's left of their home. The fire destroyed 1/3 of the town's buildings. Hundreds of homes on the west side are gone. Damage to others varies, and so will the availability of services people usually take for granted.
It might mean that you need to bring in water from an external source to flush your toilet, for example, or to use to wash dishes or do anything like that. So if residents choose that that's a standard of living that works for them because they'd rather be in their house and they'd rather be back in Jasper, we will allow them to do that. But that won't be the case for everyone.
Power, wastewater service, and natural gas have been restored in most areas. A basic emergency room will be up and running at the hospital. Businesses are preparing to quickly staff up. The owner of the Tonkin Inn is aiming to reopen in 2 weeks.
We want to get open as soon as possible, and we also have 60 people working for us, and we want to get them back to work too.
Jasper is heavily dependent on tourists, and although they're free to start visiting once again starting Friday, they're also being warned it could take weeks or months to restore some amenities, including accommodation, and it may be best to give this community some time to confront its new reality and get started on next steps. Omar.
A tough road ahead. All right, Andrew, thank you. Hundreds of firefighters are battling a fast-moving wildfire in Greece, fueled by strong winds and racing towards Athens. The flames are 25 meters tall in some areas. Several towns and villages were evacuated, including the historic town of Marathon. Summer fires are common in Greece, but unusually hot and dry weather linked to climate change has made the fires more intense. Ukraine says its forces have pushed deeper into Russia, gaining control of more than 1,000 kilometers of Russian territory and prompting a new threat from Vladimir Putin, who is vowing to retaliate after the surprise incursion. Here's CTV's Michael Couture.
Progress made by Ukrainian troops is plastered online. soldiers ripping down Russian flags in the Kursk region and replacing them with Ukrainian ones. In his nightly address, President Volodymyr Zelensky had a stern warning for the Russian president. Russia brought war to others, and now it's coming home, Zelensky said. Ukrainian troops control 1,000 square kilometers of the Russian region bordering Ukraine. Forced to evacuate the region, Russian civilians are bused to Belgrade. Ukraine's incursion caught Russia off guard, with much of their military still occupying the Donetsk region. The new offensive has the backing of U.S. lawmakers.
Keep it up. Putin started this. Kick his ass.
Now, the Kremlin is spinning it differently, calling Ukraine's move a provocation. The West is fighting us with the hands of Ukrainians, President Vladimir Putin told his top officials, claiming it's a way to improve Ukraine's negotiating position. And some think that could be Ukraine's ultimate goal.
The public in Ukraine wants peace, but is dead set against territorial concessions to Russia. So taking Russian land gives it something to trade away.
And there could be another motive as the war nears the 2.5-year mark.
I think it's really something that Zelensky thought of from a strategic move to keep the war in the minds of the West and to show the people of his own country that he can do something damaging to the Russians.
As Ukraine starts to take Russian territory, the U.S. is deeply concerned by reports that Iran is planning to deliver hundreds of ballistic missiles to Russia. A State Department official says that type of move would represent a dramatic escalation. Omar?
All right, Mike, thank you. As Israel prepares for a possible retaliatory strike from Iran, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau urged Canadians in Lebanon to get out while some commercial flights are still available.
The situation is so difficult that we may not be able to get all Canadians out. That's why while the airports are still open, while there is an opportunity, we're encouraging and asking all Canadians to please leave Lebanon.
Washington, meanwhile, is sending firepower to the Middle East in the form of a guided missile submarine, which can carry more than 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles used to strike land targets. The U.S. is also speeding up the arrival of fighter jets. Canada's new Human Rights Commissioner has stepped down from the position even before starting it. Birju Ditani was scheduled to start last week, but agreed to go on leave. The decision comes after an external report looking into his social media footprint and presence at past events, which Canadian Jewish organizations alleged was anti-Semitic. However, the report found that Ditani did not harbor anti-Semitic beliefs. It did, however, raise concerns about a lack of transparency around what it called his advocacy work when he applied for the position. The report did not make a determination about whether Ditani should continue in the role of Human Rights Commissioner. In a statement, the Justice Minister said he has accepted Ditani's decision to step down, and the search for a new commissioner will begin soon. An earthquake struck a large swath of Southern California today, shaking buildings and interrupting live broadcasts in Los Angeles.
That's an earthquake. That's an earthquake.
Oh, wow, that is a real earthquake.
Whoa, that is a real one, guys.
We're just going to make sure that our studio lights, everything stays safe.
The scientists at the Geological Center were seen ducking for cover themselves during the 4.4 magnitude quake, and students of this high school were evacuated on their first day of the new school year. No physical damage was reported, but people have been warned of aftershocks. Donald Trump's much-hyped interview with Elon Musk on X was off to a rough start tonight, derailed by technical issues. The founder of the platform blamed the difficulties on a massive cyber attack. The conversation, which was expected to begin at 8 p.m. Eastern, was delayed by about 40 minutes after many users who tried to join the live broadcast got this error message. The former U.S. president was banned from the platform previously known as Twitter after the January 6th riots. Musk brought him back in 2022 when he bought the site. Separately, the FBI says it is investigating efforts to hack both the Republican and Democratic campaigns. Justin Trudeau and Ontario's premier appeared together today to announce a major expansion of a Goodyear plant.
Companies from around the world are trying to connect with the reliable, educated, ambitious, serious workforce that we have right across the country.
The $575 million project is aimed at modernizing a facility in Napanee, Ontario, near Kingston. The project aims to reduce emissions at the site, which will include tires for the electric vehicle market. Ottawa says it will create 200 new manufacturing jobs. The company will receive $64 million in subsidies from the federal and provincial governments. We have a worrying new snapshot tonight of the crisis across Canada's healthcare system. A new report in Ontario shows how exhausted and burned out nurses are amplifying concerns that staffing shortages will compromise patient care. CTV's Alison Bamford has more.
Stretched thin with an overwhelming workload, morale is deteriorating across Ontario's healthcare system.
The conditions that now are breeding such discontent that are causing, nurses to flee.
The findings of a new study based on interviews with Ontario healthcare workers. Identities kept anonymous, but the problems they face are clear.
We hardly have time to take breaks or go to the washroom. I don't think that patients are getting the care they need.
Researchers say the growing staffing crisis is putting the well-being of workers and patients at risk, a problem that predated the pandemic.
Over time, this just corrodes people.
The concerns echo survey results from Saskatchewan released last year. 62% of registered nurses there considered quitting the industry, and 92% said working conditions negatively impacted their mental health, something BC nurses are also seeing.
It's just not a sustainable formula for one person to be providing care for 12 to 16 acutely ill patients.
BC is the first province to introduce a minimum nurse-patient ratio. When rolled out in the fall, there will be at least one nurse for every 4 patients in medical and surgical units.
It's a win-win for the nurses, the profession, and for the patients. They endure less workplace injuries, there are less medication errors, and there are less hospital-acquired infections and less readmissions to hospital.
Nurse-patient ratios don't exist anywhere else in Canada, but are set up in California and parts of Australia. Earlier this year, Ontario voted down a bill that would have introduced a similar practice. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
Coming up, on pace for a cardiac care revolution.
It was about 2 weeks after the implant that I went on a hike.
A life-saving implant the size of a small battery. Plus a swimming sensation breaking records. Canada's Public Health Agency says a third person has died as a result of a listeria outbreak linked to plant-based milk. There have been 20 lab-confirmed cases of the illness, many who became sick after they say they drank Silk and Great Value brand beverages. Most were women over 50. Calgary is on the front lines of new cutting-edge technology, one of 2 cities in the world implanting a new state-of-the-art pacemaker. They're smaller, so less restrictive, implanted directly into the heart through the leg. And doctors say come with a shorter recovery period. CTV's Kathy Lee explains.
When the heart beats too slow, a pacemaker helps restore its natural rhythm. And now, a leading-edge device.
We have been working on developing a new, less invasive pacemaker.
The world's first dual-chamber wire-free pacemaker is as small as a AA battery, a tenth of the size of a traditional one. It's also implanted into the heart through a small incision in a vein in the leg, reducing infection. The old version, with wires, also known as leads, goes through the shoulder and underneath the skin in the chest, leaving a scar and a bulge.
The risk of a normal pacemaker is quite high in terms of infections, upwards of 2 to 5%.
For this avid 77-year-old hiker, his traditional pacemaker even caused pain, rubbing against the straps of his backpack.
I would do like a 29-kilometer hike, and it would be really hurting by the time I get back.
John Kiebert is one of the first patients in Canada to have the new device implanted. It's innocuous, has given him more strength on those mountains, and recovery time post-surgery faster.
It was about 2 weeks after the implant that I went on a hike.
As of 2023, more than 200,000 Canadians live with a pacemaker. Keybert is one of 15 patients at the Foothills Medical Center to get the new version, and it's in high demand countrywide.
The challenge with it is people learning how to put them in safely and effectively, and also the cost. They're much more expensive than traditional pacemakers.
Currently, the new pacemaker is offered to patients who were part of research studies for the device or those who have a higher risk of infection. The Montreal Heart Institute and the Foothills Medical Center are the only two places in Canada offering it. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
And a troubling new health forecast on one of the leading causes of premature death worldwide. A new study warns cancer deaths among men are projected to surge by more than 90% by 2050, the largest increases among men 65 and older. Still ahead.
The whole country supports and cheers everybody on, and I mean, people, they may not know you personally, but they'll still come out and watch you run.
Canadian fans welcome sporting heroes home. Police in Australia are investigating after a reportedly stolen helicopter crashed into the roof of a hotel in Queensland, killing the pilot. Most guests were sleeping at the time.
I woke up and just like a colossal ear-deafening bang, and I was like, what is that? I turned to you and you just like, I have no idea what that was either.
The crash sparked a fire and forced hundreds to flee the building. A couple staying in the hotel was sent to hospital for smoke inhalation. A far more jubilant scene at homecoming in Canada for sporting heroes who are celebrating their successes with their new hardware. Crowds greeted Canadian medalists at Toronto's Pearson Airport, fresh off their record-setting performance in Paris. Some reflected on their favorite memories.
I don't think I've ever been on the floor of a stadium that big before. I mean, I think for swimming it was 14,000 people, but that was like 75,000, so it's just a whole different level, and to see all those people up there was absolutely incredible. I mean, I tried to spot my dad, but I definitely could not find him.
Super cool, but it's just a lot happening at once. Try to see Paris a little bit outside the village, but also stuff like media, and then just like the stuff like for the games, like closing ceremonies and stuff. So it was definitely fun, but definitely looking forward to chilling out now.
Seeing my family in the stands, like after the race, I got to go see them because my first Olympics was Tokyo. There was no spectators, no fans. So to have them there, like live right in front of me, and to be able to go up and hug them in person after the race was special for me.
Well, as we all saw, Canada delivered special performances, shining bright in the City of Light. The successful showing left the country feeling proud about how top athletes performed on the biggest stage in sports. CTV's Christina Tenelia on how Canada left its mark on a Games, Christina, that really were historic for the country.
Omar, there's a lot to celebrate. Canada won the most medals in any summer games since the boycott-plagued Olympics 40 years ago in LA. 9 gold, 7 silver, and 11 bronze. 27 medals, 317 athletes, and 2 scandals. The games started on a low note, but progressed with a flash and a splash.
I feel immense pride in all of our nation's athletes who performed so well.
Closing ceremony flag bearers, swimmer Summer McIntosh.
This is definitely something that I'll appreciate and hold close to my heart forever.
And hammer thrower Ethan Katzberg, igniting the pride of a nation with memorable performances and results. Wrapping up the summer of summer, 17-year-old McIntosh from Toronto tallied 3 gold, 1 silver, and set 2 Olympic swimming records. She is Canada's first triple gold medalist. Katzberg, he is Canada's first Olympic gold medalist in any throwing event in 120 years.
I had a good idea that it was a good throw.
We are showcasing this for the very first time on the Olympic stage.
A first for breaking at the Summer Games, and a gold medal for Vancouver's Phil Wizard Kim in the inaugural event. For Toronto's Josh Liendo, a silver in swimming, the first Black Canadian swimmer to win an Olympic medal.
We were sitting in a circle in the hotel crying our eyes out.
From swimming to scandals for the women's soccer team after coaching staff were caught using a drone to spy on one of its opponents. The women made it to the quarterfinals, eventually losing to Germany. Markham's Andre DeGrasse failed to qualify for the 200-meter sprint, unable to defend his gold medal from 2020 after his coach was tossed from the games over misconduct allegations. DeGrasse and his teammates later captured gold in the men's 4x100-meter relay, providing some redemption for his rocky start. Canada won its most medals ever at a Summer Games in Los Angeles in 1984. 44 medals, and Team Canada will have a chance to beat that record in that same city when LA hosts the Games next in 2028. Omar.
All right, Christina, thank you. And as Christina just mentioned, it's LA's turn to take the torch, and today, a tangible reminder of that. LA's mayor today touching down in the city from Paris with the Olympic flag in hand. There will be no new venues built. More than 80 existing venues will be used instead. And to make sure LA traffic doesn't get worse,
Games are going to be car-free, which means if you want to go to any of the venues, you're going to have to take public transportation.
and in case you're wondering, the 2028 Games are a mere 1,432 days away. Let the countdown begin. After the break, meet the Canadian Paralympic swimmer who competed in London, Rio, Tokyo, and now Paris. The Paralympic Games are a celebration of human strength, perseverance, and the power of sport to transcend barriers. And while one group of Canadian athletes returned home today, another is just beginning their journey in Paris. Here's CTV's Garrett Barry on a swimmer ready to set a new standard.
It's an exciting night for swimmer Katarina Roxon. Tomorrow, she heads to France for her 5th Paralympic Games. She's competed internationally for years, qualifying for Beijing in 2008 at just 15 years old. Her resume now includes a gold medal at Rio in the 100-meter backstroke. At 31, she's a veteran voice for Canada's Paralympic swim team. Roxon says she's looking forward to helping her younger teammates settle into the Games.
I think for every single person on the team, like starting new, it can be a little isolating because everyone has their cliques. They've been on the team for so long, you have your cliques and everything. So for me, I've always tried to maintain the stance of making sure whoever's coming on the team, whoever's new on the team, I try to embrace them.
She'll break a record when she takes to the pool later this month. 5 Paralympic appearances is the most for any Canadian woman swimming at the Games.
My dad is my coach, right? So my dad's like, at the end of this season, take it in, see how you feel, and if you want to go back in, we'll go back in for another year. So it's just taking it year by year. And so here we are 20 years later.
Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, her accomplishments have been highly celebrated, a highway in her name.
The competition's going to be what the competition's going to be. You're just going to enjoy the experience, and whatever the result is, I'll just be happy with that.
She's not ruling anything out on her future after this Paralympic competition. Roxon says for now, she's focused on the next few weeks. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
What an inspiration. And that's a snapshot of this Monday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.